Good evening and welcome to the October 26, 2023 meeting of the Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees. I'm Lee Cross. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask that you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you for being here. I would like to comment, if I may, that we appear to be at our maximum capacity right now in this room, so for any relevant record and to the outside world, we're sorry about that, but we're in a one-in, one-out situation, and I haven't said that since KU.
Football?
Oh, downtown? That's funny. That's so funny. Just got it. Okay, so next, the next item on our agenda is the awards and recognition portion. We're going to start with Dr. Bound with a presentation about the Nerman Museum.
Actually, yes, if we want to declare trustees.
Oh, excuse me.
Roll call, just real quick.
I see that 6 of us are here. I know Trustee Hamill will not be able to join us tonight, so we have 6 trustees present. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'd like to invite Marianne Matos to the podium, and she has a recognition she'd like to do tonight.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Marianne Matos. I am the Community Relations Manager at the Nerman Museum. Joanne Northrup, our Executive Director, is out of town this week, so Catherine Morse and I, Catherine is our Public Programs Manager, and myself are here on her behalf. Over the past few months, Catherine and I have been sharing the museum's art education duties, which includes overseeing and training our docents, an amazing group of people who lead tours for visitors of all ages and who complete an extensive training process to learn about the museum's collection and pedagogy. They are skilled at teaching diverse audiences and making contemporary art accessible to our community.
Hello, and as Marianne said, my name is Catherine Morse, and I'm the Public Programs Manager at the Nerman Museum. I have been in the Education Department at the museum since 2009, and I have had the honor to work with our excellent docent team since then. The docent corps started in 2007 when the museum opened its doors, and we have had many docents work with us over the years. Right now, we have a dedicated team of 13 docents who lead tours for hundreds of visitors every year, from groups of hundreds of school children to on field trips to community adults seeking to deepen their understanding of art. So the Kansas Art Education Association, KAEA, is a statewide professional organization dedicated to the growth and development of arts education and advancement of high-quality art education. The Nerman Museum docents were nominated and chosen to receive an Art Enhancer Award, and were recognized earlier this month at Emporia at the KAEA conference. And we were excited to celebrate and recognize our docents more publicly in this forum tonight. The Art Enhancer Awards were created to recognize exemplary contributions of individuals, groups, institutions, or businesses that have significantly enhanced art education in their community.
Docents not only come together to work as a team, but they also choose to spend their free time learning together and teaching others. There is always more to learn with special exhibitions and a diverse audience. No 2 tours are ever the same. Docents must be flexible and adapt to every group's needs. One adult chaperone who came to visit wrote of her experience of a tour for school children. I had imagined a far more structured and formal visit. Our docent brought the art alive for these students and engaged everyone in the group. She also remembered they were kids. The docent helped them learn how to look at art and that each person can have their own view of the work. She made a big difference in these kids' lives.
And we have docents Sarah, Melissa, and Debbie here with us tonight, if you would stand up. A couple of the docents asked us to share the comments on their behalf, so we are going to read a couple comments. Sarah says, "I'm honored to be a docent as I've learned so much about art and have helped so many visitors appreciate art, which has enriched their lives."
And our docent Glenda says, "It's a great day when I can engage with others about art. I enjoy giving tours to diverse groups of people, different age groups, various levels of knowledge, different reasons for visiting. What a joy to share the artwork at the Nerman Museum. Thank you for letting us share a little bit more about this recognition and the work our incredible docents do.
Thank you. Just like trustees, we spend our free time together to learn and teach other people. Yes, any comments?
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I think when it comes to our volunteers, that we realize that they have so many choices of places to volunteer their time. And so I just want to say thank you, probably on behalf of all of us, for choosing Johnson County Community College. We realize, your time is valuable, and, thank you for being here tonight, too, so that we can recognize you. Please share our thanks.
Thank you again. We're going to take a brief detour and go to open forum now for the next item on our agenda. Hank Wolf is on his way. The open forum is the section of our board agenda is a time for members of the community to provide comments to the board. There will be one open forum period during a regularly scheduled board meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes, please, unless a significant number of people plan to speak. In that instance, the chair may limit a person's comments to less than 5 minutes. In order to be recognized, individuals must register at the door 15 minutes prior to each regularly scheduled board meeting. When addressing the board, registered speakers are asked to remain at the podium, should be respectful and civil, and are encouraged to address individual personnel or student matters directly with the appropriate college department. As a practice, the college does not respond in this setting when the matter concerns personnel or student issues or matters that are being addressed through our established grievance or suggestion process or are otherwise the subject of review by the college board. There are 4 registered speakers tonight, is that right? So you'll be called to the podium in the order of registration. Prior to beginning comments, we ask you to state your name, city, and state. I will state, is that all I'm supposed to read? Is there a Zoom option, or do we?
No, not at this point.
Okay, very good. So with that said, the first speaker we have tonight is Christy Dye.
Good evening. I'm Christy Dye from Kansas City. Something I wanted to say tonight was thinking about our mission and inspire learning, transform lives, strengthen the community. As a group, I think we all strive to be a community-oriented community college. The cosmetology program has a very diverse group of students and clientele from the community that we have engaged with for almost 30 years now. Our students range in age from those who are looking for a second career to those who are still in high school. This is a career program that significantly supports women and minorities in the community who are trying to provide for their families, often as single parents. We have a very large group of first-generation college students every semester who are very proud to say they went to school and graduated from Johnson County Community College. Within the last year, with less than half of our usual classes, we served approximately 3,800 community members with a wide variety of services, anything from free veteran haircuts to a full hydrofacial service. And speaking of hydrofacial, that's something that's very unique that only JCCC can provide students in all of Kansas, in the entire state. The nearest school to have that technology and training for students is on the Missouri side in St. Louis and Springfield. Students completing the aesthetics program do leave being a certified hydrofacial technician, again, putting our graduates in the field better prepared than other schools. Another great benefit to the community, the JCCC cosmetology program actively engages with the community year-round, almost every day of the week. And I was wondering what other career program could say that. Sunday is pretty much the only day we do not actively participate and engage with the community in some way. Can dental hygiene say that? Culinary or pastry? Yes, the pastry program is amazing and it is very popular and does definitely provide for the community, but only one day per week and for a couple of hours. What's also interesting about the pastry program is that all of their proceeds support their program, various projects and competitions, and they don't have to pay rent. Since the last time I was here speaking at this podium, the aesthetic and the nail technician programs have collected $13,500 in proceeds, and that was from less than 20 part-time students, because that is all that remains at this point. Something else I find interesting is that our cosmetology, our own continuing education division surveyed the community for ideas for their youth enrichment classes next year. They had such an overwhelming response in the categories of cosmetology, they reached out to us for help. I will be teaching 2 aesthetic classes next summer. But where are all of those high school students going to be able to continue their aesthetic learning and pursue a quality education while earning college credits? I hope when those students ask me that question, I can proudly say Johnson County Community College instead of having to refer them elsewhere. I really believe there are other options to explore in this situation. We have not explored grant opportunities. We could explore doing theory classes on main campus. So many classes are online at this point. We could do practicals and lab hours could be potentially done at OHEC in Olathe. There are available rooms at that site. There are other discussions that could be happening. Not one of us has been included in any meeting, asked for any ideas or advice. No effort has been made to try and make it work better, and that's not fair. I don't think that this should be JCCC's, what they're remembered for in this particular decision.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker we have is Nyla Ridings. State your name, city, and state, please.
My name is Nyla Ridings. I live in Overland Park, Kansas. I've been a Johnson County resident since 1982. For the last 15 years or so, I have been a customer, client, I'm not sure what I'm called, but I feel like I'm a valued person at the cosmetology school. And to hear that this program may be finished is heartbreaking to me because I'm retired now. And in the last 2 months, I've spent $90 on 2 haircuts, and they don't look any different than if I had gotten them for $5 a piece at the school. So that's a 900% increase for me in haircuts, and I know I'm not the only person in Johnson County that's experiencing this. I also have participated in the esthetician program, and there's no place that you can get a facial like they give for $25. In addition, I buy my products there, which are about half the price of what I would pay in a retail situation. That will just make the whole esthetician program out of my reach because I can't spend $150,000 on a facial. So I know these decisions are tough. I get that. I've been in those positions before of having to make tough decisions. But please rethink this one. And please reach out to people that might have ideas to help with this. And let's try to save this program. Thank you to all of you that take your time to serve on this board. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is Arzina. Please state your name, city and state, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Arzina. I am from Overland Park, Kansas. And I just wanted to start this by telling you a little bit about my mom. She's the strongest person I know. And I'm sure you guys can agree with that sentiment about your moms. My mom grew up in India. She loved school, makeup, and spending time with her sisters. She was actually a cosmetologist in Hyderabad, which is where I was born. And she loved what she did. However, once my family immigrated to the States, she had to give up her passion because her license wasn't recognized. Once my brother and I, we're twins, we started college, my mom was able to pursue her education here at JCC through the cosmetology program. I watched her go to class every single day, and I watched her get that excitement back in her eyes because she was doing something that she loved. I witnessed firsthand how that cosmetology program empowered her. And she isn't the only one that I know. My aunts, who are also immigrants, hold that same story. Education like this one is one of opportunity, empowerment, and resistance. I wanted to do the same. So after graduating from my university, I came back home, started my corporate job, but I wanted to do something that was creative, and that was something that I was passionate about. I watched my mom and my aunts do hair and makeup and facials, and they love it. And I've grown up watching them do that, seeing them do that, and that made me want to pursue nails. So now I am a student here at the JCC Nail Tech program that is part-time. And that is the only program that could have given me that opportunity. I love going home and being able to discuss my classes with my parents and my community. I also want to say that I was present here at the last Board of Trustees meeting, and I want to address something that was not talked about. The option of shutting down this cosmetology program is also an equity issue. My mom, my aunts, and I would not have had this opportunity to pursue this education at any of the neighboring schools like Paul Mitchell. This program is accessible to so many people, like immigrants, like people of color, like people who grew up low income, all of those which I identify with. Sunsetting this program would be truly detrimental to this community I call home. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Arzina. The next speaker we have is Tama Veltri. Tama Veltri. Sorry if I botched that.
Yep, I answered anything close. Tama Veltri, Overland Park, Kansas.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm going to read just so I don't miss any points. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. First things first, although I am here to advocate for keeping the cosmetology program with emphasis on the aesthetics program, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge how difficult this decision must be for you all. I've watched the Board of Trustees meeting from last month several times, and I can see the confliction across many of your faces. So no matter the outcome, one thing we can agree on is everyone in this room has a profound love for this college and only wants the best for it. In my brief time with you, I want to give you a history of the aesthetics program so that you understand its roots, give you an overview of the dynamic women that accompany me here tonight, and reiterate what an important role these programs provide to our community. I was the second class to be enrolled in the aesthetics program in 1998. I graduated in 1999. 9 months into my time at my salon, I was called back to ask if I wanted to teach. So I decided I'll give it a shot. I came back, went through our instructor training program, and was offered an adjunct position. I realized our curriculum needed to be better. We needed to do better, so we started module by module creating a new curriculum. My adjunct position turned into the first full-time aesthetic teaching position at the college, which I held for 12 years. During that time, we created an advanced program so our students could get a Missouri license. We embellished on our instructor training program, and at that time had an abundance of instructors. We used our IT students to help teach because they include their instructor ratio for KBOC, and we actually couldn't employ all of our students that turned out. So for me, that's something that needs to be looked at as well as far as pouring back into for the community. The program went from 650 hours to 1,000 hours in 2009. So we got busy elaborating on 350 more hours of curriculum and then continued our advanced program. So when I've heard about the possible closing or sunsetting, I wanted to come visit with you all tonight. A few things that I just kind of wanted to touch on was that I know West Park has been kind of a hot topic. Do we keep it? Do we not? I have obviously opinions on that. What if we did a cross scenario where theory was held either on main campus or at OHEC, and then you can allow more space at West Park for more clinic floor time and clinical time? So it seems like classrooms are pretty full from 8 to 12. What about classroom availability from 12 to 5? So a lot of cosmetology, aesthetic, and nail tech students, they are somewhat flexible with part-time or full-time jobs, and they can go later in the day. They can go on weekends. And I constantly get asked, since I'm heading into my 25th year of aesthetics, I now work at a medical spa, which I've been for the last 12 years, where should I go? And it's unanimous. And I have employers that seek out our graduates. The tuition is less, but what about raising the tuition some? What about raising the prices of the salon and spa services? I don't know the last time we had an increase, but I know cost per student at the school is higher than a traditional student. But I think students, even if they paid a higher tuition than it is now, as long as it was seated under the private schools, would still seek out our program.
You have a minute and a half.
Thank you. The income that comes in from the services, on average, I think ranges around $200,000, at least the last time I read a report. That money gets rolled back into general fund. You know better than I know how that works, but what about rolling some of that money back into the programs, again, if it's a money and space issue, to offset that? I just feel like there's things we can sit down, to Chris Dye's point, and really just roundtable about this versus having such finality to this program when it has been serving the community both from a student aspect, a client aspect, for 25, 26 years now. So I know your decision is hard. I just hate to see it close. It has been at the top of its industry for 2.5 decades, and I thank you for hearing me out.
Very welcome. Thank you, Tama. I believe that'll close our open forum session this evening. Thank you all for coming and speaking here tonight. We appreciate your input. The next item on our agenda, Hank?
Yes.
Hank Wolf, our student spotlight. We could have Hank come to the podium, please. Good evening.
Hello. Hello, my name is, hello, my name is Hank Wolf. I am 22 years old, and I have Down syndrome. I am currently a second-year student at the JCCC Connect program, and I am the first person with Down syndrome to be a member of the JCCC Student Senate. I am just a normal college student. I enjoy hanging out with my friends, music, and YouTube.
Bring down the mic.
Oh,
Hear you even better.
yes.
You're doing such a nice job.
Having Down syndrome does make me some things challenging, like find more skills, speech, math, and don't let it bother me. Actually, because I can conquer the world. I participated in CLEO when I was in the Blue Valley 18 and 21 program. I was excited to join the Connect. Connect taught me to make my own decisions, cook my own food, and get jobs. My goal is to live independently in my own apartment. I am using my shop skills at the Golden Scoop. It is a non-profit ice cream shop that employs people with disabilities. I have worked there for 2 years. I am so excited for this second location upcoming in 2024. I am lucky to have my Golden Scoop family. I am grateful to my Connect t-shirts, Miss Courtney, Miss Jordan, Connie, Emily, and Professor Gray. I also want to recognize all my friends in Connect. Thank you for being my friends and can't wait to graduate together. Thank you.
Could we ask questions or? Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Wolf? Trustee Ingram.
Hey, do you know my friend Trey at Golden Scoop?
Yes, I do, yes.
I'm going to tell him you spoke in front of us this evening, and it's so nice to meet you. But you be sure and tell Trey hi, too.
I will, thank you.
Welcome.
I saw Trustee Rail next.
Thank you so much, Hank, for coming to speak with us, and it's so nice to meet you. I just want to comment, I've known you now for all of about 2 minutes, and I'm virtually certain that while you're grateful for what people are doing for you, the people who meet you and interact with you are even more grateful for what you give back. So thank you so much for being here to share yourself and your story with us.
Thank you.
See the Trustee Smith Everett, then Trustee Muse.
Hank, thank you for being here tonight. I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite class that you've had at Clear Connect?
Since Cleo, I actually took adulting class with Miss Jordan since COVID. Since then, I actually thinking during COVID, I finally got a job at the Golden Scoop. It's been wonderful to have that class. She just teach me.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Trustee Muse.
Thank you, Hank. I think you have two special people here with you tonight. I wondered if you might introduce them.
Yes, I have my wonderful mom.
Yeah.
And I have my dad.
Always got to give those mamas a little extra love. That was the right call.
I've never been to Golden Scoop, but I've heard about it. What flavor would you recommend there?
I recommend so we have a seasonal flavor. It's called pumpkin pie. This is our seasonal and fall flavor. But my favorite is to be the chocolate. It's very rich. But I say all the flavors are all my favorites.
Dr. Brown.
Hank, I am so thrilled to have you here with us this evening. I get to see you in the food court on a very regular basis. And thank you for recognizing your parents. As a parent also of a young man with Down syndrome, y'all are pretty cool people.
Thank you.
And it is such a privilege for us to have you as students here. You are as a student, as every other student is a student here at Johnson County Community College. And you enrich our lives as employees of the college, whether we're faculty or staff, your fellow students, and then to have the opportunity and to be recognized by your peers as a member of Student Senate is a tremendous honor. And it gives you voice to students that often feel that they may not have much voice. And so you bring that to all of us, and we're a better college because of you, Hank Wolf, and your friends. So thank you. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep.
Steal your thunder there, but I appreciate it. Hank, just a few questions. As chair of the board, I'll take advantage of this privilege. What do you like to cook?
So actually, I am trying to learn my own cooking because I am gluten free. It's kind of hard. So I want to cook some like rice to be very simple.
Very good. You said you like to watch YouTube.
Yes.
What do you watch on YouTube?
Okay. So.
This is where Mom
I always watch makeup videos all the time, or like daily living, because 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 I'm a daughter of a disability. We need to live on my own in the future.
Good.
Are you a Chiefs fan?
I am a Chiefs fan.
You think Travis and Taylor are going to make it?
It's possible. Is it possible?
Well, unless anybody else has any questions, I'll go all night. But Hank, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Hank Wolf and his family. Thank you for being here tonight.
One other quick comment.
Yes, sir.
Hank and Mom and Dad, just so you know, you don't need to stay for the whole meeting.
Yes.
You are invited to stay for as much of the meeting as you want to be here. But we're just thrilled to have you all with us tonight. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Good choice, Hank. Good choice. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the board reports section, and we'll start with the Student Senate report by Apuna Gonzalez.
Hello, I hope you are all doing well today. I'm going to give a little update about Student Senate. Currently, we have 20 out of 21 positions in Senate filled, which is 14 out of 15 student senators. All five of our exec board positions are filled, and we have our one Clear and Connect liaison, which was Hank, which he was speaking earlier. And actually, this semester, we have our first Clear and Connect senator. So that was something exciting that happened this year. Our general assemblies, we are still meeting 1 to 2 on Monday in MTC 211. We have also done funding this year for 4 different clubs. We've funded $9,845. Our first club that we funded was the GSA club, and we funded their Rocky Horror show. Our second club was Model UN, and we were funding their Model UN, American Model UN conference. Our third club was International Club, where we funded 2 of their events. Both were events for like bonding as a team and getting international students to be more familiar with the area here. And then we also funded Luna, which is the Latinos United Now and Always, and we funded their Dia de los Muertos event. We also initiated one new club for JCCC, and that was the African Caribbean Student Association Club. And then we have our event today, which is Trick or Treat for Kids, and that is going on currently in the Comms building. And then we also have our next upcoming event is JCCC Gives. The nominations are open currently, and they'll be open until November 3rd. Donations are also open, and this year the tags will be digital, and they are going to be opened on the 9th of November. So
We'll let Trustee Musel know where to make his donations. Any questions for Ms. Gonzalez?
I don't have a question, but I want to thank you for having Hank join your group. I mean, we talk about diversity and everybody kind of goes, what do we, I don't know. And then you do something like Hank and you put somebody that can be a role model for people with disabilities on your board. And everybody's fine with it. When we talk about it in other contexts, everybody gets nervous about it. That's an example of bringing somebody in that was an underserved voice. And so I really congratulate the Student Senate for doing that. Thank you.
and I'm really proud of Hank too. He's an amazing voice in our Student Senate, and he's always bringing ideas and his thoughts to Student Senate, so I greatly appreciate him there.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that was actually my question for you is how did that decision come about to have your first Clear Connect senator? Where did that come from?
So the guidelines to become a senator is you have to be enrolled in 1 credit hour here at JCCC, and I believe at least a 2.0 GPA. And the student who became a senator, he was in Clear and Connect, but he also is also enrolled in like normal classes, so he was eligible to become a senator.
But this was your first, which means we haven't had that precedent before. And so was it just happenstance that he chose to go out and try for a senator, or was it that there has been a change for how you guys are trying to get senators so that we specifically have a Clear and Connect senator?
I think that since Hank's been our Clear and Connect liaison, I think he's been spreading the word to people in Clear and Connect, and they've been coming to our meetings, and we are really happy that they're there. They do share a lot of good ideas.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I share Trustee Musel's sentiments about inclusivity and diversity, and that's exactly the representation we're talking about. So thanks for sharing that.
Any other questions, comments for Una? Una, if I may, I would say thank you for your energy and enthusiasm. I had two brothers that were in Student Senate, and I think one of them met their wife there. And the connections and network that you build is really there for a lifetime. So I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is a report from the college lobbyist, the gentleman from Shawnee, Mr. Dick Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope we can keep up the applause after I'm done with my report as well. Get this to where I can read it. It's a little bit different up here tonight. It's great to be back with you. I wanted to start, like I always do, with a sort of a revenue catch-up on how the state is doing financially. September revenues rebounded from August revenues, which were down the first time in a couple of years now. We anticipate that October revenues will also be fairly strong, since that is a month that marks late filers and dollars coming into the state coffers. What this does is set the stage then for the conversation about what the budget looks like when the legislature comes back in January. And those conversations are beginning to play out right now, not only in interim committees, but we're seeing some of the stories in the media as well. One of the things that I think we'll see is, well, the Board of Regents already approved $301 million in budget requests. That's a pared down number from about $570 million in requests that they reviewed earlier this fall. That portion that would go to community colleges is about $25.8 million. That's the same amount that we would have received last year. There's no new dollars in that figure. And so when we look at how that parses out for the conversation and what games are going to be played in January of 2024, we're already seeing that legislative leadership is talking about bringing back the 5.15% flat tax that was talked about and agreed to by many in the legislative circles last year. It was vetoed by the governor. We know that will be playing a role in budget discussions. We know that legislators will also be pushing for the constitutional cap in property valuations. That's something that Kansans will have the opportunity to vote on should it make its way through the process. Interestingly, at a recent tax interim hearing, the Tax Foundation, which is a group that the Kansas Chamber relies on pretty heavily for a lot of their policy decisions, indicated to the committee that they really should take a step back and not mess with the revenue neutral rate laws that passed a year or two ago, that they're working and that they want to have the opportunity to see them continue to work. And I'm not sure how that was received by many sitting around that tax interim table. They have high opinions about what their views of tax policy should look like. And so it was interesting to hear that report from the Tax Foundation. And there will be attempts for property tax adjustments for certain groups. That could be industrial, it could be senior groups. Those numbers and those adjustments or proposals for adjustments can throw off, again, the entire tax conversation as the way dollars come in for the way local units like you budget your allocations and spend your dollars. The other conversation that's going to be held with regard to taxes, and I'm spending a lot of time on this, I'm going to zip through some of the other stuff fairly quickly, but this is going to be the big topic next year, and that is the local ad valorem tax refund, rebate fund, and reduction fund. Sorry, you get all those letters in the acronym, and you got to remember what they mean. That is something that's been on the books for quite some time, but has not been funded by the legislature. Each year they have to pass what is called a proviso that just says we're not going to fund this. They've been doing that since about 2004. Those dollars are somewhat significant as they continue to add up across the state. The Kansas Association of Counties would like to push for those dollars to be part of the budget and come back to the counties. There's a catch, and one of the reasons why it's not very popular is because when those dollars do come back, many times local units don't reduce their budgets accordingly for the amount that they're getting back in the reduction. And so I think that will be, again, part of the fight that we see between legislative leadership and the Kansas Association of Counties. And that again plays into the conversations that you have sitting around this table each year about this time when you're approving those budgets for the coming year. So let's talk about something a little bit more fun and maybe in a good news sort of way. For the first time in several years, enrollment numbers are up across the system. Both at the state university level as well as the technical college and community college level. For community colleges across the state, the increase is about 1.1%, but here on campus, our numbers are right around just under 4%, about 3.8%, and those could have even tweaked or changed a little bit since the 20th day numbers came out last month. Again, good news, and it sort of leads us to the next topic of discussion, which is how do we retain those students once they're done with programs, once they're done with training, whether it's at the 2-year level or whether it's at the 4-year level. And just this past month, KU's Policy and Research Institute released a workforce study that expresses those very concerns, that over the next 10 years, Kansas higher education institutions will not be able to meet the needs of the Kansas workforce. That's caught the attention of a number of folks, and there's some reasons that they list in there. Part of it has to do with the outflow, either of students or workers. A big cause appears to be salaries in Kansas versus other states. The two states that are compared most to Kansas, because that's where the highest number of outflow occurs, are Texas and Colorado. And so that is a big component. That's not something that the legislature can really address. That's something that, again, is part of the component of that overall picture of where students are going and why they're going. And that is something that that Kansas employers will probably likely need to address. Kansas ranks at the bottom in most of the categories, math and engineering, humanities and arts, life sciences, and social sciences. In all of those employment categories, we're at or near the bottom of the salary scales. And so that, again, is one of the big contributions as to why folks are leaving the state. We already deal with it and the concerns that we have being on the border with Missouri, and we've seen that in the Kansas Promise scholarship program, why students maybe aren't too eager to sign off when they might get employed across the state line. So as sort of the next step, the Overland Park Chamber Public Policy and Advocacy Committee met on October 13th, so is that a week ago tomorrow maybe? Last week sometime. And they were talking about their state legislative program, and they have reformatted a little bit how they plan to talk about some of their priorities. And one of those priorities is education for the workforce, retaining the workforce, and figuring out how to attract people into the area. And so that sort of dovetails with the findings from the Policy and Research Institute report on workforce. They also have set in their policy priorities to support any expansion or access to technical education programs. Again, that fits our mission fairly well. I think I would just close with another bit of good news, and that we held a fairly robust conversation with about 13 of our local area legislators earlier this month. We gave them a view of HCA. They got to see firsthand how Pastry Day works. And it really was a great conversation around the table about what's going on campus and what do we think is coming next year. And we got to hear from them as well. And so I think that might be just a great place to, that's a little bit of a different way of doing our legislative discussions than we've done in the past later on in December. So, Mr. Chair, I think I would stop there and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Any questions for Dick? Did you? Sorry.
Well, I don't have a question. I'm losing my opportunities to rail against a property tax valuation cap, and I don't want to lose that opportunity. Everybody in this room and anybody listening should understand if we cap appraised values, that's not going to change the amount of property tax revenue this college needs to operate, to hire faculty and staff, to take care of students, to do all of our continuing ed, all those things. We still need the money, so we're going to have to raise the mill levy And it's going to fall differently on different people. It might depend on whether you have a house or a business or a warehouse. But what Topeka talks about too often is artificial caps that sound good in an election campaign that do nothing for local governments who have to actually support their institution, whether it's a city, a county, or Johnson County Community College. I just looked up the AVTR, which ended in 2003, so people that say, well, the counties didn't use it right, we don't know for 20 years whether they would use it right now or not, and the legislature can put things on that. But I will tell you, 65% of the distribution was based on population, 35% is based on property valuation according to the current law, and it all goes back to local governments and local control, and the legislative leadership in Topeka will never let that happen. So it's a wonderful thought that we'll get money back from Topeka to help us. If they would just fund community college education like they talked about in the past and increased it to the percentage it was when I joined the board 12 years ago, we would be able to lower our mill levy more because the state would be doing its part. Rant over. Initial rant over.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's prompted my rant. I'm sorry, but
Yes.
my question was that I was going to pass on, but I on the campaign trail, I commonly have to talk about the three-legged stool of funding that this community college was supposed to be established around, and that we have had to lean more heavily on property tax over the years as the state legislature has given less and less. So one of the common questions I got actually quite frequently lately was, well, what would their contribution be? We have a record surplus. What would the contribution be? And I don't know if Rachel Lears knows, or Dick, if you know, what the contribution would be if our legislature was giving adequately to fund its part of our funding for community colleges. And that is a question that I can leave out there and we can answer at a later date. But it's come up frequently enough that I think taxpayers are paying attention to, and I hope they continue to pay attention to their legislature when they go to Topeka and they decide these artificial things that then really impede your local government from making decisions for you and things that affect your life. And I think that's a good question to ask and to have an answer for what that funding would be so that we could be clear on how much deficit we have to make up every time.
Thank you,
Yes,
Madam
that
Trustee.
concludes my.
If we did the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, it'd be pretty easy. You take the overall budget, divide it by 3, and then subtract what the state is
gonna let
actually
you do
giving
that
us,
now.
and we're probably talking $40 million.
Just so you know, I concur with both of you. Appreciate you making, because we fought a revolution over a less goofy tax system. 20 mills, the first 20 mills on K through 12 goes to the state. That's one of my favorite tax structures. I have a lot of friends in the legislature. I have one state legislator coming to my table at some enchanted evening. I love a lot of them, even the ones that think I don't. And I'm saying, I wish they could just stop and explain their collection process to their citizens, because it's just, clean up my language here, it's super goofy how it's collected. So for us, it's tough, but it's fairly straightforward, and we have that luxury on this board. The state does help us, and we appreciate that. But at the same time, while they put pressure on us to do certain things or spend our money wisely per pupil, that's a strain and a stress that we have from Blake Flanders. We sure appreciate what Topeka does, but we have local control and we have the right to say things that we need to. KU's, Mr. Carter, KU's enrollment numbers were up, is that correct?
I have that chart with me, but I didn't look at it specifically.
KU and K-State were both
across
up.
the board. State universities were up. I think KU and K-State were up. I think the regionals might have been flatter or slightly down, but overall they were up.
I just checked. You can check the website as we speak. I was the assistant to the manager of the Survey Research Center at the KU Policy Research Institute at the Dole Center. I worked for Chad Kniss, and we all reported to Don Hader-Markell, Professor Markell. So
you were kind of the Dwight Schrute.
I did whatever was needed, man. I ran. I got coffee. I managed the survey center. It's a fascinating and fun thing for a wonk to get into what the people really think, because they're our boss. And so when you can peel into, I used to be a better staffer, right? Like the poll tabs and understand what people think on a nuanced level. That's fun. The legislative discussion was fun. I regret I couldn't steal Dr. Bound's baked goods. I thought they'd mistakenly given him a non-gluten-free, so I was trying to help him. But we thank the legislators for coming. We sure do appreciate everything our delegation does for us. It's like the thing with Congress or the legislature. I'm not really a big fan of the one on the whole, but ours are good, and we sure appreciate our delegation. I don't have anything else.
Could I bring up a couple of things that, in the past, one of the things that I've just kind of heard conversations about over the past couple of years had to do with the reciprocal tuition about, some of the states that border us. Is that being talked about at all, rescinding that?
I've not heard about it at the state level or at the Board of Regents level. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't mean that those conversations aren't ongoing somewhere that aren't that haven't reached the public podium yet.
Okay. And is the dark store theory, is that just in the past, not spoken about?
I wouldn't say that it's in the past, but the Supreme Court issued a decision a year or two ago that told the Board of Tax Appeals to rehear the Walmart cases without applying the case law to the decision. And in between that time, I think that they reached Johnson County and Walmart reached an agreement. And I don't know what the backlog currently looks like for Board of Tax Appeals with regard to appeals. I think it's still hefty. There's a lot, but now I think we're more focused on things like revenue neutral rate and property valuations.
Sometimes those things just kind of pop up. So I wondered. The question that I had is legislative priorities for this campus. Will we receive those?
We will be discussing those. I believe it's on the cabinet agenda for December 5th.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Right after
very
that.
good.
One last question, Dick, if I may. Will you be at the Legislative Summit in February?
If we're sending a delegation or if we're planning on attending, we haven't talked about that, but I'll work through Kate's office to make sure that we're represented accordingly.
You two want to get?
I'm in.
I'll send you.
I didn't.
Mr. Carter, thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for being here.
I'll pay more.
The next item on the agenda is a report by the Faculty Association by Dr. Irene Olivares.
Greetings all. Can you hear me? The mic proximity is always a little challenging. So hello, my name is Irene Olivares. I'm an associate professor of history. This is my first time addressing the board, so I'll spend some time talking about myself, my experience, what brought me to JCCC. So I apologize if the FA report is a little longer than usual. But I will do 4 things in my report today. I will share my perspective as a newer faculty member, discuss what other newish faculty members have been up to, provide specific updates for the Faculty Association, and discuss events that faculty have been involved in over the last month. So I'll begin with my story. This is my 5th year teaching at the college. I was part of the 2019 Lens group, which is now called the New Faculty Orientation Group. And what brought me to JCCC was first and foremost its reputation. I did my higher education at KU, so I would constantly hear about the great classes and the resources that the college had available for students. And I confirmed the reputation when I visited the college for my on-campus interview. I got to walk around and see places like the CoLab, the Collaboration Center, where students have access to projectors, printers, and other things that enhance their learning experience. That was also the year when the first floor of the library was being rebuilt or reconstructed, and I got to hear about all the great things that were going to go in there for students to serve as a one-stop shop, so to speak, for tutoring and other things. So I was very excited to come here to work at the college. Personally, another reason why I applied to work at the college was because of my own experience as a first-generation college student. I started my path towards a PhD by attending my local community college in Phoenix, Arizona. And my parents, my dad has a 6th grade education. My mother taught herself how to read and write by reading the labels on boxes of food. So my parents themselves, they were very inspirational and problem solvers, but they did not know how to help me navigate the higher ed experience. And we as a community college, we help our students identify what they're here for, what their goals are. And some of that happens when they take general education courses, like in my case. I took a history class because it fulfilled a box. And literally the first day out of that class, my life had changed. And so for me to be able to be part of that community college experience was just, a dream come true. And so far, the college has provided all the resources that I need as a faculty member to be able to contribute to my students' journey. Many of my students who come and visit me during office hours share some of the same experiences that I did. So it's really a great privilege that I have to be able to serve them. And as a community college, I think we're a magical place because we bring together folks who are first gen. We bring together retirees who are taking continuing ed classes. We bring together veterans who are taking classes perhaps to move up in their current positions at their jobs. And to have all of these people sitting next to each other in the same classroom, our young adults get to see the responsibility, the great professionalism that our veterans display when they're in class. So, sorry to use the word again, but that is a magical thing that I think only community colleges can do. And so to be able to continue to offer this same type of experience for everyone, I think is very important for the college to consider as as you get to take these very challenging decisions. One of the things that I think is going to be very important going forward is to continue supporting our staff who work with students in advising, or counseling and librarian faculty. I just had a librarian present to my class, and just the tailoring she did for the individual research needs of my world history versus my Latin American history, just to consider all of the work that she did for that. So that's a little bit about me and my experiences and what I hope to see the college do as we move forward. I would also like to give a shout out to some of the other newer faculty. As you all know, we've experienced a lot of retirements from our very experienced colleagues. And what that has meant is that our newer faculty members who are still in the midst of doing many course preps are now taking on the responsibility of new leadership roles as newer faculty. And that is a great privilege that we have, but it's also something that we have to take on in addition to serving our great students. So I do want to recognize some of these newer faculty who are taking on these great roles. For example, Nick Mancini, Associate Professor of Reading, Megan Doyle, Associate Professor of College Success, Craig Butler, Associate Professor of Education, and the Director of the Center for Future Educators. These colleagues came in with me in 2019, and they have just made themselves a great presence on campus. They have led professional development sessions. Professor Craig Butler to take on his position as director for the Center of Future Educators while he was still under peer review. I have to take off my hat to him. I also want to acknowledge Professor Gladys Mwange, who is an assistant professor of psychology. She started in the fall of 2021, and she has taken on the responsibility to work with our grants office, Professor Bill McFarland from anthropology, to apply for a Fulbright Hays grant. And this grant would help us build up our area studies related to Africa in our curriculum. And that's a big task for Professor Mwangi to take on, again, having joined us fall 2021. So I want to commend her for that. I move now to a brief FA update. Our FA membership subcommittee has narrowed down designs for our new FA logo, which I think the board will be very happy to hear. And we have selected designs that are moving away from the JCCC colors, which the board has asked us to do a few times. So over the next week, the FA membership will select a new logo, and we will have that by next week. I had a few other things that I wanted to highlight of events that have been taking place on campus with faculty, but I want to limit myself so I don't take up too much time, and I want to recognize Professor Terry Easley Giraldo, who yesterday received the 2023 Michael and Suzanne Osborne Community College Outstanding Educator Award. And this is a national award given by the National Communication Association, and it recognizes educators who have contributed to the speech and communication profession through great teaching, scholarship, and service. So I want to congratulate Professor Easley Giraldo for what she does. So that will conclude my comments, and thank you to the board for having me speak today.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Olivares?
I'm going to move that we send her to Topeka. That story in defense of community colleges. Thank you for that. That was excellent.
Trustee Rutan.
I like that you highlighted what people in your incoming class have done. The thing that you didn't say, I don't think strong enough, was half of your career at JCCC has been going through COVID, and so for all of you to emerge as leaders after going through such a trial is also to be commended. And then also, I do want to say Dr. Terry Easley Giraldo with her commendation for her work. In addition to that, she is an advisor for Luna, and she helped that group raise $14,000 over the last month.
Yeah. Great kudos to Professor Easley Giraldo.
Trustee Smith-Everett.
I wanted to go back to something you said right at the beginning about your own experience, and that you often get students who come in your office and share their own experiences. And so my question back to you is, what things can we do at JCCC to lower the barriers and increase effectiveness for people to access us, to be successful in our programs? When you hear about those stories, what are recurring themes that we could do to improve on things?
Well, I don't want to speak for students, but what I do hear on a regular basis is some of them self-advise. And so I ask them, do you know how to make an appointment with an advisor? And sometimes they say no. So I've gone down to advising. I picked up some of their pamphlets, so I have those in my office to hand out. And I think that's where those resources for our advising our counselors, I think, are necessary. But I think other folks here can speak better to what we're doing to make sure that our incoming students or interested students know where to go when they have questions.
Yeah, and I just wanted your perspective. I was not trying to put anybody, I don't want to put you on the spot or have you answer for others, but it gives everybody has a unique part of the puzzle. And so when you get to hear from students, you know, that's one step removed for us. And so I love being able to get that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Trustee Rail.
I just wanted to comment, and I'm going to echo something that Trustee Musil said. You are an incredible spokesperson for the community college purpose. And by that, I mean, you know, I can speak to both. I was a non-traditional student, a veteran who went back to school. I know what it was like to try to tackle that here at Johnson County Community College. And at the same time, I remember the magic, to steal your word, of being a member of faculty and having a room full of students who had so much diversity. And we talked earlier about really what diversity is about, and I thought you summed it up really well. People with different experiences and different backgrounds, and bringing all of that into the room, and the incredible dialogue that you can have in a classroom where you have that mix of students that you often do not get in a traditional university where people have gone from high school straight into college and they just haven't had those life experiences. And so it's great to hear you talk about. I agree. Let's send her to Washington, D.C. by golly.
Heck yeah.
And let her, because you're absolutely right. That's the beauty of a community college. That's the function that we serve, and that's really our purpose in the community. And so thank you for that. And by the way, Dr. Easley Hidalgo and I were in the same Lens class, and it's been fun to watch her go through her career. And congratulations to her.
Do you have anything? Did you say at KU you kept hearing about JCCC? My first girlfriend at KU had heard so much about JCCC.
Oh, okay.
She finally says, "What is this place?" And we tell her what it is, right? She goes, "Yoko Kuko?" And we're like, "No, it's JCCC." I just wanted to share that story because at KU you hear a lot about it.
Thanks for sharing.
It's going to be a hard night, madam.
watch it.
You'll be here till 10, so. I agree, it's magical. I appreciate it. I wanted to thank you for being here, and thank Dr. View for allowing us to hear from so many different people during these reports, so thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a report for the Johnson County Education Research Triangle by Trustee Musel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Johnson County Education Research Triangle is funded by a 1/8 sales tax adopted by the voters of Johnson County in 2008. It funds the KU Cancer Clinic, the KU Edwards campus, and the K-State Olathe campus. We are now 1.3% up over last year, year-to-date. Because it's a sales tax, it has been up significantly more than that as inflation hit. It is now leveling off, and some of this is a little bit of a weird reporting timetable by the state on what the sales tax revenues were. So I think next month we'll get a better picture of exactly where we are. But it's still up over last year. Each of the three groups will receive more money. I did want to note our next meeting will be this coming Monday, October 30th at 8:30 a.m. at the K-State Olathe campus. Those are open public meetings. If anybody wants to attend each of the three legs of the stool, the two KU campus things and the K-State campus report on their programs. I did also want to note that the K-State Olathe campus introduced this week a new strategic plan, which is focused on advanced manufacturing and supply chain issues and food as medicine and part of community health. So it will be a little more of a focused effort at the K-State Olathe campus. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Trustee. The next item on our agenda is a report for the Kansas Association of Community College Trustees by Trustee Ingram.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not have a report. We will meet again the first weekend in December at Seward County Community College. I did want to bring up the Kansas Apply Free Days, which are coming up in November. This is where there is no application fee, Tuesday, November 7th through Thursday, November 9th. That applies to any Kansas resident seeking a certificate or a 2 or 4 year degree. Also, returning and transfer students are eligible for that. The website is kansasregions.org/apply-free. And this applies to all Kansas public and private universities, community colleges, and technical colleges. So when we talk about some of the barriers that we talk about, this is an opportunity of 2 days, 3 days actually, where people can apply free, register at our colleges.
So that means like Miami County too, right? Apply. So we should ask Senator,
Any Kansas resident.
we should ask Senator Baumgartner to put that out.
I think the college would be putting it.
Trying to make all
Yes.
the Johnson County people
Yes.
jealous if I
Yes.
asked.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? Sorry to interrupt you.
Nope. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Our next item on our agenda is a report for the JCCC Foundation by Trustee Rattan.
Good evening, everyone. Just a reminder that Some Enchanted Evening is November 11th, which is coming up pretty soon. However, we are sold out for the event and $130,000 over our income goal already. To date, we've raised over $950,000 for Some Enchanted Evening. $950,000. This calendar year, we have raised $1.247 million for scholarships. We're proud to once again integrate several students and programs into the event, and guests will leave the event learning more than ever about how JCCC is impacting our community. The foundation presented at the Finance and Management meeting. A few highlights from the presentation regarding this past fiscal year is contribution and event revenue is up $3.3 million over last fiscal year. Investment revenue is up $8.2 million. For all other revenue streams, the ones we can control and ones we can't, like investments, total revenue is up by $11.5 million. Revenue included $2 million gifts, a $2 million gift from the Sunderland Foundation to support the CDL facility, and expenses included $1.4 million in scholarships. The Harvest Dinner this year reached 4 times the amount we did this year than last year, and our new event, Wildlife, grossed $350,000. A new Honors Scholar Award was established and will be implemented this school year, and a new annual scholarship for Auto Tech was established. Our next executive committee meeting was this week on October the 24th, and our annual audit was presented at the meeting with no errors or issues. That's the conclusion of my report.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next item on our agenda is a report from the College Council for Mr. Jason Arnett, who is not here tonight. But we had a report emailed to us earlier today. Correct. Are there any questions about that report? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next item on our agenda is committee reports and recommendations. The first agenda item underneath that is the collegial steering report by myself. I know we met earlier this month with myself, Dr. McLeod, Dr. View, and other faculty members in which we spent 45 minutes discussing AI, the ethics and implications of AI, which I appreciate greatly. We did briefly talk about the upcoming master agreement renegotiation and had a spirited and lively debate. Anything to add, Dr. McLeod?
No, I think you've covered it.
I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I put it together in my head. Dr. View, I'm sure I forgot something. Cookies. It was the cookies. Thank you very much. That concludes my report. The next item on the agenda is the Employee Engagement and Development Committee. Isn't it HR?
Employee Engagement
Okay.
and Development.
Trustee Ingram.
Former HR.
Former
if you'd
HR.
like to call it that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Employee Engagement and Development Committee met at 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, October 4th in this building. Natalie Croy with Culpepper and Associates provided an update on the job architecture project. Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the project are completed, and 30% of Phase 3 is also completed. The second round of collaboration is currently underway with Dr. Bound and the Cabinet. Culpepper has begun the external market analysis and is using data from these resources: Culpepper, CUPA, and Western Management Data Tool. The final report to the board will include a summary of the methodology and approach used by Culpepper on the project, the compensation philosophy, the compensation structure, and a cost-impact analysis. Patty Sullivan with Fine Line HR Consulting provided an update on the process improvement work currently underway in human resources. Priorities are identified, and Ms. Sullivan shared the solutions that will come from improving the processes and the timing for implementation. Best practices in users and employee experiences are being considered on the process improvements. Dr. Bound noted a firm for the HR leadership search has been identified and the contract is under review. It is expected the search will begin in early November. Rachel Haynes provided an update on a new leadership and supervisor training program. Human Resources partnered with Staff Council to identify areas the training series and digital resource needed to address. A supervisor digital resource will launch by the end of October. The new supervisor training series has begun and includes 4 modules that will rotate throughout the year. Based on feedback from key leaders and end users, HR has updated their page at jccc.edu for an easy reference of whom to contact in HR and legal notices on one page. HR's Info Hub pages are being improved. A new employee onboarding online resource page has been launched, and an improved in-person new staff orientation has begun. The tuition reduction form moved online for more timely processing. HR worked with campus services and added 1 lactation room. JCCC now offers JCCC now offers 3 lactation rooms that are updated with supplies and are more comfortable spaces. The next Employee Engagement and Development Committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 1st at 11:15 a.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Trustee. Any questions for Trustee Ingram? Any questions for Trustee Ingram? Seeing none, the next item on our, thank you, Trustee Ingram. Next item on our agenda is the Inclusion and Belonging Committee. The report to be given by Trustee Rattan.
For our October 2023 Inclusion and Belonging Committee, we met at 9:49 a.m. on Wednesday, October the 4th, in the Welding, Construction, and Machining Technology Room, 111. Present were Dawn Rattan, Laura Smith-Everett, Andy Bound, Kelsey Nazar, Mickey McLeod, Rachel Lears, and Marquise Harris. We opened with an introduction from the board, after which Marquise Harris stepped on the podium to begin his presentation. with updates and a recommendation from the Office of Inclusion and Belonging. It is a recommendation of the IMB Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to no longer have a standalone Inclusion and Belonging Committee as of January 1st, 2024, and in turn, update the working agendas of the Student Success, Employee Engagement, and Management and Finance Committees to include an item that goes as follows: monitor inclusion and belonging, strategic measures, and initiatives. This recommendation was based upon past several months of assessing the current structures in place to support DEI strategic initiatives. Additionally, it would allow for the simplification of inclusion and belonging efforts now that there is an official site office in place, and the long-term goal of this would be to integrate measures institution-wide to foster awareness and accountability. Over the next couple of months, Marquise will present specific strategies and action items that will support the recommendation being made and how it will be implemented going forward. The meeting closed with comments from Trustee Rattan and comments from Trustee Smith Everett, and adjourned at 10:19. The next IMB committee meeting will be on Wednesday, November 1st at 11 a.m. in the Hugh Spear Boardroom, or here.
They'll be here.
Or here.
Okay.
That is the conclusion of my report.
Maybe not. We have a recommendation, right? We need, are you moving that recommendation forward?
Yes, I think so.
Is there, the motion has been made by Trustee Rattan. Is there a second?
Second.
The second has been moved by Trustee Rattan and seconded by Trustee Rail. Any discussion on this recommendation? I see Trustee Musil first.
But if somebody on the committee wants to respond first, I'd like to hear Trustee Smith Everett.
So I don't think it was in the report, but basically we are proposing to sunset the Inclusion and Belonging Committee structure for the board. And the purpose around that is really that our new Inclusion and Belonging Director has, done his initial work and really listened to many constituents and really poured over our strategic plan. And as Chair Rattan and I have said from the beginning, we believe inclusion and belonging work is embedded in all work at the college. It is not something to be held in a silo. And so our director believes that too and is recommending that in December. Is that correct? It's to sunset in December, Trustee Rattan, I think?
Yes, and as of January 1st.
As of January 1st, okay. I couldn't remember how it was cited in the packet, and I have something else pulled up. That we will sunset it because we will have inclusion and belonging in each of our other standing committees as an item that is addressed in each of those other committees.
Thank you.
I'll go after you.
I just want to say I'm fully in support of this, particularly, Marquise, thank you for your work and the committee for its work. And I want to make it clear, we still have 4 strategic goals, and one of them is to build an inclusive and equitable campus culture, and that is in no way diminished. This is, in fact, a better way to reach that goal, I think, is what everybody believes. So I don't want anybody to read this as somehow backing off of what that strategic goal is, and I don't think anybody on this board does, but I want to make sure the community feels the same way.
Trustee Rail.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, I think it's so important because it's so easy for this to be misinterpreted. And Marquise, thank you for your good works. I think the statement the statement we're making here is that DEI initiatives are a part of the very fabric of this institution. It's not a separate standalone component that we look at separate and apart. And so, and I'm confident that everybody on this board is as dedicated to DEI initiatives at this institution as I am. And this gives us an opportunity to make sure that DEI and inclusion and belonging issues are taken forward at student success, at employee engagement, at every step of the process of the governing of the institution. And I think it's a really smart move, and I applaud everyone who was involved.
Did you have something?
Sure. I agreed. DEI to succeed needs to be integrated and accountable across the institution, and it does continue to be a priority at this institution. So I do want to make that clear, and that is not all on Marquise's shoulders. Actually, the approach that he's taking, I think, is next level, higher level DEI work to make sure that it is a part of all of our work. It's really the meaning, taking the word into action. There's still work to identify the metrics and make them simple and make them something that everyone can identify and know when it's working. Again, I will identify, I'm glad that you have the confidence that everyone on the board supports DEI. I just want to make sure we do have 100% support of the trustees, the cabinet, the president, and the leadership of this college. And that we don't try to bury this and that it does remain on our strategic plan. And kudos to the people who, Marquise had a great visual that showed all the inclusion and belonging efforts that has taken place across this college, and so many different groups' effort to keep it alive, to keep it important, to make sure that we were doing the work. And so kudos to all of those groups. I want to thank them again for the work that they've done in small and large groups in different areas of this college to continue to move this forward. And I look forward to what will grow and what will accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Ingram.
Not going to repeat, but what I am going to say is this is something that for three of us here on this board, probably 5 years ago, we really started talking about. And so I want to reassure you that even those of us who will no longer be on this board are very supportive of this move. And it has been something that we identified a long time ago. I want to thank you and you for the work that you have done on the committee, because when we were talking about committees last year, we introduced the idea for this committee, knowing full well that we were in support of it. But, I think it's exciting. I was familiar with Marquise and the work that he had done in the Olathe School District and was thrilled when we were able to bring him to Johnson County Community College. So, I think with your excitement and how this moves forward, the rest of us are going to be looking at it with that same excitement that we've accomplished. And still have work to do, but we've certainly accomplished placing it where we felt like ultimately it needed to be. But you, Trustee Rattan, and you, Trustee Smith-Everett, really carried that until we had someone hired and in place. So thank you for your leadership from the board.
Thank you. I concur with everything that's been said. And I do believe, don't we have an administrative committee on inclusion and belonging? Am I dreaming that?
Administrative committee.
The old task force.
We have a group that's been a DEI task force.
Okay.
Who was actively involved in the securing and going through a DEI, bringing in a consultant and to provide us with feedback and how to move forward. As a college, we've had a DEI committee of some 70-some people across the college who are deeply passionate about this work and have been advocating for some time now for us to have a person to lead the college through our efforts around now inclusion and belonging. And so Marquise is in the process now of working that all out.
I just wanted to illustrate that point. I thank you, Mr. President, because at our direction and Hest, as policy leaders here, I appreciate your attention to it. I will say, echoing what Trustee Ingram said, when Trustee Musil, myself, and Ingram took the board, there had never been a person of color on this board. And then we appointed Henry Sandate, and we've now had two. I know in the past 5 years we had, I think, our second Jewish trustee in Joy Costin. I just wanted to illustrate my own commitment to this board. I will say my favorite political color is green, and not because it's red like the inside of a watermelon, like my college roommate said. I just am an environmentalist. It was a joke that nobody got, so think about it.
We're laughing.
And then I appreciate what has been done, and I appreciate what happens here because the commitment is ongoing. And then I think I challenge, as Dr. Cook would say, all of us to uphold the fact that it's an internal and inherent component of our fabric. And so I thank Marquise and for everyone who's done what they've done here. Unless there's anything further, I'll move on.
Mis-
Yes, we should. Any further discussion on this point?
I'm sorry to
Oh, I forgot to vote.
I just want to say, I think it's really imperative that we repeat something we said in the beginning, which is also not on the shoulders of our new Inclusion and Belonging Director. And that by doing it this way, Trustee Rattan and I feel very strongly that this is work that each of us needs to bear the burden of and do the work for and carry on. And by bringing it into each of our committees, we can include, I think in many ways we parallel what has happened at the college, which is we are cheerleaders, Trustee Rattan and I are, for inclusion and belonging and have been really big advocates of it. But sometimes that is not inclusive and that doesn't help everyone become better at being inclusive and ensuring that we have good diversity. And in the same way, we don't want our new DEI director, inclusion and belonging director, I'm trying to use the right terminology, to carry that burden. It's everyone's responsibility. And so as we do this, it's a model for how I think the college is also going to be doing the work embedded in many things we do, not living on its own for only a few people to bear. So just wanted to say that before we vote. And can I call the motion to question?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, can I call the motion to question, please?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously, 6-0. The next item on our agenda is the Management and Finance Committee report by the man, the myth, and the legend, Trustee Musil.
The Management and Finance Committee met at 8:30 a.m. on October 4th, 2023. I was present, Mr. Hamill was present, Trustee Hamill was present by phone. The information is found on pages 6 through 10 of the board packet. The first item was the Foundation's annual report. Joy Ginsburg, the executive director, gave that. I'm not going to report on that because I think you gave the same report, and it was a good year for the Foundation as we continue to raise private money to help our students. The information technology report was given by Phil Mine, the Executive Director of IT Security, and Don Campbell, the Director of the Program Management Office. What we learned is what we already knew, is we're under threat every day. Cybersecurity is out there. Information technology will continue to be threatened. And there are lots of things we can do as members of the campus community that we aren't doing. We're doing better than we did in the past. Don't open suspicious emails. Don't click on suspicious attachments. Be patient with two-step verification and things like that come out of the IT department. Don Campbell also talked a lot about, we know that IT is involved in every single activity on campus, whether it is a classroom renovation, fixing this space so it has technology. So they're everywhere on campus and working with every department, faculty, staff, to make sure this campus continues to work. We then received a budget calendar update from Janelle Vogler. We adopted the budget last month. We all talked about the fact that the budget year started immediately, as Janelle and Rachel and all the budget directors know. The calendar is in your packet. I did want to note that at the November Management and Finance Committee meeting, we will be get our first presentation about tuition and fees, which we've talked about, and we've talked about some this morning. They represent about 15% of the budget, and were raised 2 academic years ago. So we'll discuss that at the Management and Finance Committee in November, and that will be brought to the full board, I assume. I don't know if at the board meeting in November or as part of the budget guidelines in December. In any event, and I'm pleased that the administration has taken a step to take that and have a discussion with Student Senate before any recommendation is made. And we did a capital acquisitions and improvement progress report. If you've been in GEB where our regular meeting is, you can see additional work being done there. We saw pictures of the old boardroom where the wall has been removed, and it's very empty, which is kind of sad, but it will be beautiful when you guys get back into it in April. There were 2 action items that I'd like to have the board address. The first is a Canon ImagePress V1350 color production digital press printer. It will be printing for a lot of the larger print jobs and color print jobs of the college. And it is a recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of college administration to approve the proposal from Sumner One for a base year of $402,231 and a total estimated expenditure of $821,689 throughout the renewal options, and I would so move.
Second.
Motion has been made by trustee Musel and seconded by trustee Rattan. Any discussion on this point? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0.
The second item is the sprinkler replacement system for the CLB building. Again, this is updating our fire sprinkler system. It is a recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of administration to approve the bid from Ranger Fire, Inc. for CLB fire sprinkler replacement in the amount of $818,100 with an additional 10% contingency of $81,810 to allow for possible unforeseen costs for a total amount of $899,910, and I would so move.
Second.
Motion's been made by trustee Musel and seconded by trustee Ingram. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item on our agenda is a report by the Student Success Committee, and that will be by trustee Ingram.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Student Success Committee met at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday, October 4th, 2023 in this building. Our first update was a program update. Leslie Dykstra provided an overview of the Johnson County Adult Education Program goals, which include helping students earn their GED, learn to speak English, and set and achieve their life and career goals. The program's 6 locations serve 1,400 students annually from 70-plus countries who speak more than 30 languages and range in age from 16 to 70. JCAE provides holistic support for students through a needs assessment, removing barriers to success, coaching, volunteers, access to scholarship, and other financial aid support and collaborative efforts with community agencies. JCAE has 21 to 25% of Kansas enrollment and the highest percentage of GED graduates. Dykstra emphasized that despite the program's successes and the recent increase in enrollment, there is still an unmet need in Johnson County and growth potential for the program. Our second item was regarding cosmetology. Dr. McLeod reminded committee members of the overview of the cosmetology program presented at the September meeting. As requested, he provided additional cost estimates, both recurring and one-time outlays, to relocate the program to the campus. Mr. Chair, I do have one recommendation, and it is the recommendation of the Student Success Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to sunset the cosmetology, nail technology, and aesthetics program. And I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by trustee Ingram and seconded by trustee Rail. Any discussion on this point? Yes, trustee Rail.
I just want to say this. I've received dozens and dozens of emails over the past couple of months on this issue, and I want to assure those who emailed me, as I'm sure the other trustees would say as well, we've read them all, and we've heard your voices. This is a very difficult decision to make, but we appreciate the advocacy for the program, and we've read it all, and we've given it careful consideration, and I just want everyone to know that. I haven't had an opportunity to respond to all those emails, so I want to make sure I assure you that I've read each and every one of them.
Trustee Smith-Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to echo the same thing that I have received and tried to reply to as many emails as possible. And when you believe in something and you speak up for it, your voice is heard, and I want you to know that, because that's an important skill that you have for the rest of your life for really important things that'll affect you. I think we have a real opportunity with this program to rethink it, reimagine it, to be collaborative, innovative, and inclusive on retooling something that has a legacy here. I think I've spoken multiple times about really being torn about whether we should sunset this enough. And I think for my part, the response from the community is enough to turn me one way or the other. And I think it's when we talk about DEI work, and we talk about it being part of everything we do, we have to look at where some of our programs are more effective in those areas. And when you look at this program, I've heard small businesses, which is our workforce development. I've heard women and immigrants really changing their lives and transforming the possibilities for themselves and their families because of this program. And so I think for that reason, I will not be able to support this motion, and I want other members of this board to know that.
Thank you, Madam Trustee. Mr. Musel, Trustee Musel.
Well, I appreciated the speakers tonight recognizing difficult decisions. One of the things that I think is really hard in life is deciding, of all the things we could do, what should we do? If we had infinite resources, there is no doubt that this program would continue to be part of the college. It may anyway. But we don't have infinite resources. So of all the things we could do, what should we do? And I asked myself, if we didn't have a cosmetology program today, and somebody brought us a proposal that said, here's what you can do that will take you this much money, this much space, this many faculty, and you'll generate this many students, I don't think we would add that. So it helps clarify whether it is a critical and integral part of this college. We've heard from faculty and staff and students, and I have all the emails here. I counted 22 of them with the one I got today. I've responded to some, I haven't responded to all, but I have read all of them, and they talk about high-quality service, high-quality professors. Customers talk about what they get, and nobody up here is denying any of those things. Part of it is, what is our role in the community? Is our role to provide, what I heard tonight, $5 haircuts where the market is $90? Is it our role to do that? It is clearly a service to the community that other taxpayers in the community are going to pay for. And what the people that aren't here, that aren't heard tonight, whether they're minority, first generation, immigrants, or whatever, are those people that might be in a program in our career tech ed program, in the programs that are growing, whether it's welding or machine tool or HVAC or plumbing. And those are the voices that aren't heard. So trying to weigh this and prioritize it is the hardest thing we do in life, no matter what the decision is. I don't have enough money to do everything I want to do in life. What am I going to do? Where am I going to best spend it? And when I was elected, I believed I was here to support 500,000 people in this county, every one of whom is a taxpayer. Even if they're under 18, they're paying taxes, for the best opportunity to provide students a place where they can have a career. And when Dr. McLeod presented the information about what other programs we could and need to expand, and I believe we are at a finite resource position, it makes it no less difficult, but clearer that we can put those resources in a better place for the entire community. And I believe we have evaluated it. I believe we have investigated it. I believe we've looked at alternatives. This is not completely unlike what we went through at the track program 6 years ago. That wasn't fun when we eliminated our track and cross-country program. But we looked at the amount of dollars spent on the students there and whether we could reposition those dollars in a way that was better for the overall college and better for the overall community. And we did that, and it wasn't easy, and we took a lot of heat for it.
Did we?
And the heat is okay. I mean, that's why we get paid the big bucks up here, is to take the heat and make the hard decisions. So I've thought about this a lot, and I also think that members of this board have to give some level of credence to what our professional staff says is the best opportunity for higher education success in Johnson County. And I do that. I don't always agree with our professional staff. I don't always support them on votes. But I think we have to give some level of credence to that. And when I add all that up, I will support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Ratan.
First, I do want to thank all the people who wrote notes. I haven't responded, but Arzina, Kelly, Chua, Rebecca, Sarah, Nafis, Cheryl, Karen, Beth, Rachel, Heather, Katrina, and Professor Bailey, if you're out here or listening, thank you so much. This has troubled me and been on my mind every day since it was first introduced outside of the meeting. And I continue to ask for different ways to retool it. Our last meeting, the number $12 million to bring it here literally took my breath away and gave me a pit in my stomach. So, I mean, I don't know. I just think that I know we talk about the earning potential, but we also talk about the possibilities of a place for some people to start that couldn't do welding, as we talked about, or some of the other things we want to put money towards. We could get real creative and change program pricing. We can change tuition. We can involve a cross-section of stakeholders in figuring it out. We can partner with the national brand. I mean, there's lots of ideas out here. So, you know, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how I want to vote, and part of me feels like, let's say, revive it in our next master plan, and the other part of me says, you know, force more creativity by voting no, so that we have to figure it out. And it's not the 12 million, but we find a way. So, still listening to input from other trustees as well.
Thank you, Madam Trustee. Are you done?
I'm finished.
Do you have anything?
Other than things that have already been said, I think this is one of the most difficult votes we have had to make in recent years. And that's what makes it so difficult, because like everyone else, I'm just going to repeat, we've read your emails. We don't take this lightly. And I think Trustee Rail said at the last meeting, this is hard. This is really hard. But we're here, and we're here to vote on it. My concern, and a couple of things that were mentioned earlier, I know, Trustee Rail, you just repeated some of the ideas that were brought up this evening. But to hear, you know, maybe they didn't feel like they were included in conversations, and I just have to count on the fact that they were included at some level, at some point, that this has not come to us without thorough vetting. And so I tend to agree with Trustee Musil in that, you know, at this point, based upon the financials that we are looking at, the numbers, I think it would be a great time to retool. But based upon the information that we have right now, I would be supporting the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I do want to add, Trustee Hamill called me last night to let me know he wasn't going to be here today. He's not available. But he wanted to make sure that we all knew that, and that he wanted to be part of the vote. I don't know where the vote is tonight, but it is always beneficial, I think, to have 7 people voting on it, on a decision like this. I would go on to say that, you know, this vote will, we pride ourselves in being nimble and efficient. We're really not as nimble and efficient as we think we are, or we should be. And this, I've seen it in 12 years. If we look for some creative solution, it's not going to be there. There aren't grants. You can't run a program on grants because they're finite in time. Partnerships with a major brand will change this from a public education effort to a private subsidized effort, in my opinion. I just don't, I think we all would like to find some way to make this happen that would not be painful to anyone. And that's why we continue to add programs and very, very rarely discard programs. And so I think we have to be very careful about what is the precedent that we set if, with these numbers and these numbers of students and these costs, we say we're going to continue this program. It would not become a model of efficiency that I think the future boards would like to follow.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I?
Yes.
I will be supporting the motion, but I do want to say this. I think Trustee Musil put it best when he said we can't be all things. We just can't. And that's true for all of us. You know, as we look at our budgets for our households or our companies, we just can't do it all. And in some ways, and I mean, all of us have gone through a lot of angst over this decision. Trust me. It almost to me seems like a marriage that you know isn't working, and you just keep sticking with it, saying, I'm going to get it to work, I'm going to get it to work. This is a point in time where we have a limited student enrollment and limited faculty in the program. And if there's a time to sunset the program, this is maybe the best time to do the least harm. And I could not agree more that the program serves a valuable role to our students and to the community. But as other people have said, there are programs that people would like to get into, the students would like to get into, that they can't because there isn't the capacity, and we have to make those hard decisions as to where the taxpayers' dollars are better spent. And I can't in good conscience ask the taxpayers to pay more money so that we can spend, $2 million a year to graduate 100 students. I wish I could. I wish we could do that. But we just can't. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. If I may, I said really everything I wanted to say last month. I think all of you were here. Trustee Musil raises a good point. Without 7 here, I think it's entirely possible we have a 3-3 vote. I'm more than willing to go forward. I do not support this motion. I've let the administration know from the time it was first brought to my attention. I'm not sure we've followed the reduction in force process pursuant to the master agreement. I'm not sure we considered other options. I simply do not agree with the administration, and I do not enjoy sitting here saying this. And I told the administration numerous times in the past 3 to 6 months, please don't do this. I do not agree with it. So here we are in the public eye and spectacle where I put here, along with my colleagues, by the people of Johnson County, sit as a trustee of, I think the statute says, the assets and resources of the community college. So I think this is at the core of the community college's mission. I asked the administration not to put me in this position, and the administration did it. With that said, Trustee Musil, are you making a motion to table this discussion until we can have 7 here, or would you like to proceed with the vote? It's not my motion.
I have not, and I think it would be better with 7. I don't know. I know how most people are going to vote, and it looks like it could be 3-3. So I have not made a motion to table it. If there's more discussion that people think that would be a fairer idea, I'm happy to make that motion. I mean, this is a debatable question. That's why we aren't 6-0 or 5-1 or 4-2. Maybe we're 4-2. And without Trustee Hamel here, we don't have an odd number. So part of the reason to go from 5 to 7 when it expanded to 7 was to keep an odd number. So I would propose that we go ahead and vote, and if it's 3-3, then we decide that we revisit this next month.
All right, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I can just piggyback on something you said, I have also echoed my concern about this from the beginning. And I'm a policy and process person. That is really important to what we do and how a big place like this operates. And it has not settled well with me that we have done our due diligence to have a thorough and transparent process that has brought us here. And I've watched many times in the last specifically 2 years that I have felt things are brought to us in a very rushed, very one-sided manner, and I do not do well making decisions in that capacity. And that is a big part of what has not settled well with me. And when I am put up against a wall, I'm going to choose people every time. And that's what I think this decision is for me, choosing the people that this will affect deeply, which I am going to echo one more time, is majority minority and women in this instance. And everyone on this board knows how I feel about those groups and how important it is that we continue to lift those voices up. So from a process and policy point, Mr. Chairman, I would say we have got to do better. And I am frustrated that I continue to be put in this position where I feel like I am surprised and I'm given 1 month or 2 months to make a decision of a 30-year program. We did not do our due diligence, in my personal opinion.
Any further discussion?
I would be more inclined to give that extra 30 days if I understood exactly what you wanted from the administration, because the administration's job is not to bring things forward that the board likes, or the board wants, or the board finds easy. The administration's job is to, as professional educators, do the due diligence. And I don't know when other members of the board heard about this, but if you've been on the board very long, you know that the cosmetology program has had an undercurrent of issues for years. And we've been talking about this specific effort to evaluate whether to sunset it for months. It will always come too soon because I don't want to make this vote. And I'm a little frustrated that we are now placed in a position, if we vote to sunset it, we're somehow against single moms, immigrants, people of color, because that is not the case. There will be single mothers, immigrants, and people of color learning plumbing, HVAC, automotive technology, going to marketing programs, because they have the same tuition rates and they can do the same thing that the students can do in the cosmetology program. So I don't want to get overly passionate about this because it's not a fun vote, but let's vote on it based on the facts in front of us and not suggest that somehow this is going to be a vote for or against DEIB, for instance, because that's not what this is.
Are you finished?
I am.
Thank you, Mr. Trustee. I'm mustering the tact here to be polite with you, to say no one said that till you did. We're simply raising the facts before us, and as the numbers shake out in cosmetology according to the federal government, with respect to who's in cosmetology and who performs these services, the choice was made and framed as 2 choices to keep the program open, and that we would need 8 additional faculty to run the program. It's not clear to me that we would need the additional resources to do this. What other options did we look at? I'm not clear what other options were looked at, and I have asked these questions for quite some time. And with respect to other troubled programs, I don't think anybody wants me to start talking about other troubled programs on this campus. With respect to the undermining of the program, various sources have brought to my attention. It's not clear to me the last time the faculty even talked to their dean. I don't know how we can say that a program's mismanaged when they haven't talked to their dean. Right? I don't know what's what. I know that I enjoy being the person in the room to say that the regents are under immense pressure to get their numbers up, and they don't want us spending our money in a disproportionate manner that doesn't turn out students for them. So I think there's immense pressure on this college from various state players. I've been doing this job for 2 years, nearly, and I'm just telling you, when we say we need more money from Topeka, this is one reason why. I mean, we don't want KU doing this or K-State doing this. So if it's unfair, I ask that this not be done. Various other board members, the administration went around and got this on the agenda through the committee process, and that's fine. I asked that this not happen. I asked repeatedly that this not happen. If you want to do it, then vote for it. but please don't say that those of us are being unfair when we present basic facts to you.
Mr. Chair, with all due respect, I haven't heard any facts. I've heard sources where you have not told me who they are. I don't know if you asked Dr.
Ask
McLeod.
Dr. McLeod how many faculty he needs to continue the program.
I think what Dr. McLeod has told us in the committee meeting and last month is, if you want the program to succeed as a program and not just piddle along with this number of students, very qualified students, they get out, they do great. I'm not denying that. These people here work hard, and they're going to get out and they're going to work hard in our society. If you want the program to be a program of the quality, size, and stature that we aspire to at Johnson County, then we're going to have to do it differently. And we're going to have to do it better and bigger. And that's going to cost more money with a relatively small gain in students. Now, if there's more stuff that you need answers to, I'm happy to postpone this for 30 days so you can continue to ask those questions. I just don't know that you're going to get any answers that change your mind.
Again.
Because there's anecdotal evidence and there's factual evidence and there are policy choices to be made. And the policy choices are, do we continue the program as it is today at $2 million with 100 students a year? Or do we ramp it up so it's something bigger and we find money for that in our finite budget? And those are the policy choices. And I don't probably like them any better than you do.
Anything else?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to go on the record, though, as saying that's a bit of an unfair attack on Dean Cox. He has spent a year doing the work. He met with the full-time faculty. That every adjunct faculty member was not involved in that is part of the divide that occasionally occurs in programs when full-timers determine that they want to handle their program because the adjuncts do not have a right to a vote necessarily. And they do not. Now, they put their work in. They are paid appropriately for that, and they are workers of this college in that right. But I will not stand for having my dean disparaged or having the full-time faculty put out on an island when an adjunct feels that something has occurred that they do not like. Those are two things I cannot abide.
Well, are you finished?
No, I'm not, actually. I'm slightly offended by the insinuation that there is skullduggery afoot somewhere within my operation. My folks are professionals. They work hard. They do what this college asks of them. Sometimes they're put in bad positions. We have a lot of people who work here who want their way. We can't always give them their way. Sometimes you are the villain of someone's story even when you try to protect them. And the reality for me is that to argue, first of all, that the professionals who work under me are not doing their jobs appropriately is beneath you, sir. I believe that. And secondly, to attempt to make this not an issue about the facts of the program, and I think that Trustee Musil asked and was answered, what was placed before you was an option to continue to drag something along that has not, I believe, been treated fairly at this institution, or to invest heavily in it to do the right thing and make it a Johnson County worthy program. Because while it has Johnson County's name and while the students have done well, there are a lot of holes that should have been filled a long time ago for this program. There should be better facilities. There should be an appropriate number of faculty for us to streamline this program, to get it to where it needs to be, to finish the students in a far more timely fashion, and make us a much more competitive place if we're going to do it. You have the options in front of you.
What are our other options?
You have the
Consider
option.
two options.
Those,
I'm going to delay the personal attacks I might offer you and your arrogance and hubris, sir.
No, sir.
I'm going to say I asked you not to do this.
I understand
I don't know how
that you
thought it was
asked
going to
not
go,
to
and we
do
were
it.
just going to rubber stamp
No,
what
no,
you
no,
were
no, no.
doing.
Now,
But I don't agree with it, and I asked you not to do this.
I will agree that you asked for it not to be done, but it's being done because it needs to be, and a choice needs to be made. Now, I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm telling you that I need a choice to be made so that I can be directed to do my job. That's what I'm asking for.
Any further discussion?
I do want to add that I'm not doubting your numbers and your data. When Dr. Bowden and I had a one-on-one, I shared with him that $12 million was like a lot of money. But, you know, the more ways to skin a cat's theory applies here as well. And that it may be a smaller program, that we choose the parts of cosmetology and aesthetics that are going to have a higher rate of return on the student's earning. There's, you know, I'm a possibility thinker, so I just can't help but think about multiple possibilities to make this a win-win for both the students, the faculty, and the college as a whole.
Any further discussion among the trustees?
That is all I had to say.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? No.
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 Motion fails.
Mr. Chair, I'll give notice. I will renew this motion under the parliamentary rules next month when we have 7, I assume we're going to have 7 present.
Mr. Chair,
Madam Trustee.
between now and then, if there is information that needs to be provided to the board, what is it so that it can be provided? So that the debate is not, we don't know enough, it's come too quickly, we need more options. And I'm not asking that that be done right at this moment, but there's another 30 days now, and this motion's going to come up again. So what information is it that the board needs to make this decision so that we can put it to rest? And we need to communicate that so that we have that information, so that we can make an informed decision. I don't know what that is. I feel like we were given a lot of information. But if there's more information we need, then let's get it, so that the debate is based on the facts, not an insinuation that we're voting on a disparate impact that's going to adversely affect minorities, because that's certainly not what we're trying to do. So what do we need? And that's what I would ask as a member of this board.
Are you finished?
I'm finished.
Yeah. If I may respond to you, off the top of my head, what would it cost to move the program here? What are our other options? I've asked continuously and repeatedly. I don't accept the false choice of these 2 choices. I don't like them. That's my right and my duty, I believe, as someone that represents this community, to work to save this program. I've had numerous people come to me. I am struggling in a public manner to refrain from the totality of what I know and embarrassing individuals in this room. So I'm working to do the best I can with the information that's been given to me. I studied constitutional law under Chris Kobach for 2 semesters. And that gentleman said, the argument is often one as to how it's framed. I don't like nor agree with how it was framed. I think we don't need 8 faculty members to continue this. I'd like to know what it would cost with 2 or 3 or 6. I challenge this administration and the next to offer better guidance and management to many of our programs. And I would challenge this administration, I'm doing so now, and I ask them not to do this repeatedly. I ask them, what were our other options and what can we do besides sunsetting or canceling it? And I don't know what those are. 2 is what has been given to me. I don't even know what it would cost to move it here. I don't know what it would cost to move it to a different location, to OHEC. I don't, I don't like being in this situation any more than you do. I mean, the idea that it's being framed that some of us enjoy this is in error. So I don't care who's offended sitting here. It's my job to represent the community, and I'm doing it the best I see fit. The next item on our agenda is the President's recommendations for actions, and we'll start with the Treasurer's report by Trustee Smith Everett.
Just a moment, Mr. Chairman, while I get my screen back up. Mr. Chairman, the Treasurer's report can be found on pages 14 to 24 of your packet. The packet includes the report for the month ended August 31st, 2023. Some items of note include page 1, which would be page 14 in your packet, including the general post-secondary technical education funds, which are the primary operating funds of the college. An ad valorem tax distribution of $12.8 million was received from Johnson County in September and will be reflected in next month's report. Expenditures of the primary operating funds are within approved budgetary limits. It is the recommendation of the college administration that the Board of Trustees approve the treasurer's report for the month ended August 31st, 2023, subject to audit, and I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion has been made by Trustee Smith Everett, seconded by Trustee Musel. Any discussion on this point? Any questions for Trustee Smith Everett? Nope. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0. Now our monthly report to the board by Dr. Andy Baum.
Thank you very much, trustees. It's a pleasure once again for me to provide you with my monthly update. Covered in my report tonight, obviously we had the privilege of spending time with Hank. A good reminder of the work that we do and why we do the work that we do. I'll talk for a few minutes about some of the highlights out of the monthly campus update that each of you receive. And we'll talk enrollment for the fall semester. Just a quick heads up for everyone, reminder of an event coming up that we are the site for at the end of next week. And then the three of us that went to the ACCT Leadership Congress will make a couple brief comments about the conference that we attended. So first of all, highlights out of this monthly report. Our workforce development and continuing ed program has brought back this fall, after a 2-year hiatus, the phlebotomy technician program. Again, it prepares people for entry-level jobs in healthcare as phlebotomy technicians. We're very excited to have that back. COVID was a big contributor to not having the program for a couple of years. We had 3 of our employees, 2 of our police officers, and 1 from staff development who completed ALICE instructor training. ALICE, again, is part of keeping our people safe, our COPS program here, and how we prepare employees and our students and anyone on campus to be safe when we're here. Again, as you may recall, ALICE, as Elisa reminded us, Ms. Pacer, at the beginning of every meeting, to be alert, lock down, inform, counter, and evacuate. And training our own employees to train other employees is an effective way of doing that work, and I appreciate those that completed the training recently. We have opened a new transfer center in the Student Center, which is a place for our transfer partners to come to campus and know that they have space. It's basically what we call hoteling space. So there's desks and resources available for them to come and meet with students. That's on the 2nd floor of the Student Center. When we're excited to have that place for them to land. They will continue to do tables in the food court and so forth, but they have space on campus where they can go and meet confidentially with students and have more quiet conversations with them. A number of our faculty, our fine arts and photo and film faculty and students are involved in exhibitions of their work and of work that they're working on for others. And it's a tremendous opportunity to highlight the work of our faculty, and we're absolutely amazing. And then finally, pulling it out of the many things that we could pull out of that report, our nursing faculty are leading a teaching and assessment center focused on best practices. On the 10th of November, they'll be providing professional development for faculty around the best practices in teaching and assessment, and that's in partnership with the Collegiate Nurse Educators of Kansas City. Again, there are many things, and I encourage you to read that report. I'm sure you do, but these are things that I wanted to highlight about the tremendous work of our faculty and staff and students across our campus. Continuing ed enrollment, continues to be strong this fall semester. We continue to trend upward, and I'm very pleased with our workforce development and continuing that group and the work that they do. On the credit side, Mr. Carter referenced, where we were on the 20-day or census count at roughly 3.8%. We're down a little bit of that. It shifts from week to week relative to where we are point in time, but we are up 3.4% in headcount, 4.3% in credit hours, and we are up across the board in every category of our students, except for previously attended. So those are students who may have stopped out and haven't come back. And so that's the one category. It's about 100 students in that category. But across the board, everything else is looking strong. We're also focusing on winterim. That is the 1 month session that happens between the semesters. Enrollment is looking pretty good there. And so, again, very pleased with the work that our faculty and staff are doing across the board to attract and retain and provide learning opportunities for our students. Greatly, greatly appreciate that. Next weekend, the 3rd and 4th, hosted at Johnson County Community College, brought to us in partnership with Panasonic, NASA, and the National Institute for Aerospace. They will be here. Friday is a focus on education and on educators and students. The focus is on 5th through 8th graders, exposing them to all things STEM. And it's a tremendous opportunity for them to come to us and for us to be the host location to bring experts from each of these organizations. And it's a grades 5 through 8 focus during the morning and early afternoon. And then in the afternoon, it's a focus on college level and the community. And so that is the afternoon of the 3rd. And then the 4th in the morning is a community focus, and it's open for all in the community to come and learn about the great work and the great, frankly, career opportunities that exist for students that are interested in studying science, technology, education, and math.
Can I ask a question about this? So we have the younger students, and I'm sorry, I have not read about it. If it was somewhere I have got a lot going on right now. So how many and how are they hearing about us to come and participate?
They are partnerships with 3 of our school districts. Yes, 3 of our school districts, USD 232, also the DeSoto schools. Let's see, Shawnee Mission, there's about 50 educators that are coming. The Kansas City Public Schools and the Olathe Public Schools.
This is on the 4th?
Pardon, this is on the 3rd. This is Friday morning. So this is really focused in on, and they really had to work through, I remember the early conversations about this, really had to think through capacity and what's the right number and how do we pick schools to partner with and so forth. And so these are the school districts that will be participating this year. So.
And do we know how many I thought you said at one point there were students coming. It's just the educator, K-12?
No, it's not just, but there will be teachers, obviously.
Yes.
And then there'll be their classes.
And do we know how many students we have?
200. I don't know yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion at this point? I checked the 3rd and the 4th. There's no KU or K-State home game. Is that the day it's here?
That is the day it's here. Yep, it's in the 4th. There isn't one
about the K-State game.
There isn't one on the 30th.
Nobody cares about K.
Yeah. Anyways, that is the activity that's happening on the 3rd and 4th. And again, very pleased to be bringing them to, or having them come to our campus. And then the second to last thing in my report is one for us to spend a few minutes talking about, the 3 of us that had the privilege of going to the ACCT, that is the Community College Trustees Association. Nationally, it was their national conference. And so I'll open up to the two of you if you have anything, highlights.
I made notes. So I want to first say I'm thankful for the opportunity to go. I think there were 1,900 trustees, college presidents, and administrators there at the meeting, as opposed to the first one that had like 100. With that, there was over 100 breakout sessions for all of these people, and it was actually hard to pick out. I think we got like 4 or 5. It was actually hard to kind of pick which ones, but went to quite a few and took notes and learned a lot at each. Some of the notes are, we need to make sure that trustees can articulate what our value is in the community. For instance, one of the colleges said the average wage of our graduates is $54 per hour. And I was like, what is ours? So do we know what percentage of graduates even stay and work in Johnson County or in our metro? Do we know what the average wage of our graduates are? There was a lot of focus on metrics in all of the breakout sessions, because you get what you measure, you work on those things. And so some of the stuff that they talked about, and I would love to know for JCCC, are what are our programs with the lowest enrollment? What are our programs with the lowest graduation rates? And what are our programs with the lowest retention? And on the flip side of that, what are our highest value degree programs, and what can we learn from them to apply to those that are the lower performance that I mentioned earlier? A little bit of talk about AI. I think we should look into, do we need to have an AI policy? There was a lot of case studies done, and one of them really wanted to work on graduating like Black men, and so they partner with community groups. So we had the opportunity to partner with groups like Dress for Success, different African American fraternities, or groups like 100 Black Men, to help I don't even know what the number is. So if we are having some issues, but similar, we can apply that to different groups and use the community to reinvest in our college. Union College had an interesting flat rate tuition. If you took anywhere from 12 to 18 hours, it was the same price. It was the same flat price, which was very like, but they didn't want a person to go, well, I would take 14 hours, but I can't afford that one more class. Another crazy idea was that athletic coaches' contracts were tied to academic performance of their athletes. Someone said time on campus is directly related to success, and as we had the Student Senate here talk about different clubs and what they're functioning, how many different clubs and new clubs that are coming on, and how we always talk about inclusion and belonging, we need to continue to get students involved in clubs and groups, because that actually has a direct relationship to their success here and more time on campus. We need to, as a college, present case studies. A lot of these breakout groups were case studies of, look what we did. And sometimes you're like, oh, we're already doing that. Like, we have this, we have that. But I think that we have some future case studies in looking at our Panasonic partnership with KCCC, similar to a Hawking College in Ohio State, did something where an industry came in and they needed something, and the community college and Ohio State partnered together to deliver these needs. I think that what we're doing with Panasonic is going to be one of those case studies that we should take to ACCT in the future and present and let them know all the great things that we're doing here. Similar, we've done some improvements in our math program to help people succeed at math, and I think we're starting to see those results. I think that could be another case study that we take to ACCT. There was a gala at the thing, and so they gave awards throughout the program, throughout the conference, to faculty, admins, trustees, and presidents. Again, we're doing great work here. We need to find some admins, some faculties to submit their names so that they can get an award at ACCT. We are doing great work at Johnson County Community College. We need to let people know nationally and shout it from the rooftops. Would love to have a student trustee. There were student trustees there. They were very engaged and plugged in, asking questions, and so I'd love to advance that and put that on our agenda as trustees or in board development. There was a CVTC out of Wisconsin and Ann Arundel. Both of them talked about governance, and I know we're always working on how do we do shared governance. And anywhere from developing action plans to strategic plans, they worked with cross sections of employees at the college. And of course, all of that work, I'm not going into detail, but at the end of the day, it resulted in more buy-in, more people could recite what the vision is, more people could talk about the strategic plan and what actions were taken, not just saying, here's the 4 things, but here's actually what we're doing underneath that strategic plan, and here's how I plug into it. And I think that there's work we could do for that in our next time that we roll around to strategic plans. They talked about the invisible student or the invisible worker, and we all want to grow enrollment, and so what we need to look for is that invisible worker or that invisible student, and that's working with industries, that's working with the ADA, with faith institutions, elected officials, and affinity groups. Have them come in the community and actually literally pledge to go and help us find students. So there's lots of groups out in the community that we can reach out to, that we can help them feed into our institution to shake the bushes. And that's not going to be your non-traditional students, but the way that we're going to grow is with non-traditional students. One college had an ROI promise. You will make back your tuition and fees within 6 months or less. That's a bold statement, isn't it? And then there were lots of sessions on DEI. Marquise, I wish you could have come. One comment that stuck out to me was being anti-DEI goes against workforce growth. And again, it goes back to that invisible worker and that invisible student. Many talked about how they're embedding DEI into their master plan, just as Marquise is doing, and that displacement theory is irrational. And it's a focus area for several colleges with several different approaches that are working. And I think, again, what Marquise is doing could be brought to ACCT in the future as a case study for others to follow. And that's the conclusion of my comments.
Thank you.
I participated in the professional board staff network track while I was there. So instead of breakout sessions for us, it was 2 full days of programming for individuals who deal with board or college presidents. So we had lots of panels, breakout sessions within that small group, keynote speakers. So it was good to get to know people and kind of see what other boards do compared to ours. Some boards had like 30 board members, and I'm okay with our 7. So then the last day we ended with our business meeting where there were elections, and I was elected to serve as the Western Regional Member for the ACCT.
Hey, all right. Way to get pulled in right away.
Yeah, I networked a little too hard. And that's it.
Super. Thank you.
So how many members did they have?
In the professional board staff
No, in
network,
those other boards that you're happy with 7.
there was one there was a 30.
Could they ever get a meeting scheduled? I know how much trouble you
did
have
not
with
do that.
7 of us. You could never get something scheduled.
Can't imagine.
Which, by the way, do we have a retreat scheduled?
No, I am
Yes.
still waiting on all 7 trustees to respond to the doodle poll. I guess it'll be fine.
I responded.
I know.
Responded.
Yes.
I know. Most of you did, not all of you have yet, and we're trying to get
We're still
that
working on it.
scheduled.
You might not be.
You know, just to the
Hopefully
point
by
of,
the end of the week.
should we ever schedule a meeting?
Well, can I ask, Caitlin, was there anything that was like a big aha, something new, something you took away that was that's really kind of
Not
sitting in the back of your head?
necessarily one big aha. There was a lot of notes where I was like, oh, I could try that. We could try implementing that. Small things. So
Okay.
we'll see how they kind of integrate into daily life.
All right, thank you.
I think you probably found the same thing I found. There's a lot of things we're doing great here
Yeah.
at the school that some colleges are just starting to do.
Yes,
So you
absolutely.
kind of had a little pride on,
Yeah.
oh, we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just to add to the comments, first of all, Dr. Jerry Cook was recognized with the Lifetime. He was initiated last year, and then he was part of his name came up on the screen, Dr. Jerry Cook, Johnson County Community College. And
I think we have our chair to thank for that.
I think we do.
Thank you.
That's a wonderful recognition of a longstanding contributor to this board and to this college. Many of the 10 sessions that I attended were really focused in on workforce development and the significant push across colleges across the country at short-term programs, short-term credentials, credit and non-credit. And really what they're designed to do is to focus really on all students, but heavily the non-traditional student, right? The non-18 to 24-year-old. And so, but the idea there is the value proposition of short-term program, get in, learn, get the skills, get a credential that goes with it, and often industry recognized credential, and then go and apply it, right? Get it to work. And so, but along with that, though, is addressing opportunity cost, because the longer a student is in school to complete whatever that may be, the greater the likelihood is that life interferes and they don't complete. And so several of the sessions I went to were really focused in on different ways of doing that. The one that caught my attention was the work that the Federal Reserve Bank is doing. And we don't think about the role that the Federal Reserve banks play in workforce development. They're known for, right, price stabilization, right? That's the work that we know them for. What we don't know so much, I didn't certainly know this, is the work that they do around identifying opportunities for workforce development. And one of their missions are twofold: price stability and maximum employment. And think about how the two of those play together, right? People working have more ability to utilize capital to buy homes and so forth, and to invest and so forth. So it was eye-opening for me. And so it's lead me to look in and see, well, what does the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City do? And so they do, they have reports that they look at related to economic factors and so forth that I think could be helpful to us as an institution. And so that was one that completely caught me off guard, frankly. So that, happy to answer any questions about the conference, but appreciate the opportunity for us to go and represent this college at that conference.
Any questions for the delegation that went to Las Vegas?
I just have a quick comment, because I think there were a few trickles at the last one I was at about time being, short-term being a really big push, especially in the post-COVID world for people. And I've articulated a couple times on this board that our website be retooled for people that can go in and see if they have 6 months or 1 year or 18 months to put towards their education, what could they do at our college? And I've tried it a couple times on our website, and it's pretty tough to get a determination of how our programs can, how we can kind of get a list of things, especially for somebody that's undecided on what they want to do. When Chris isn't here, so he can't, I was going to beat him up a little bit and say, I know we were talking about a website renovation a couple months ago, and that would really help for people who are rethinking but only have a very limited amount of time and need to maximize their chance to complete or to get a certificate that will transform their lives. So I hope we are still working on that and we can weave that into this.
Anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say what I'm about to say. And first of all, you all know me well enough to know I don't enjoy conflict. And I do not enjoy being a part of the conversation that has happened this evening. But I do enjoy the opportunity to work with you, and I do enjoy the opportunity to work with our team. And I want to go on record of saying that Dr. McLeod is a fine leader. I have had the privilege in the last 3.5 years to work alongside him, to count him as a trusted colleague, advisor, and friend, but most of all, trusted colleague, professional. And he leads a team of capable leaders and faculty across this campus that do day in and day out tremendous work for the benefit of our students. And I'm sorry that we've had the heated conversation that we had. I know the passion that exists around this. But I want you to know that we have a capable team here of professionals, not just Dr. McLeod, but the members of cabinet across this campus, our deans, our directors, our faculty, our staff, who give themselves tirelessly to this institution and to the students that we serve. And so I'm sorry that we've had the difficult conversation tonight, but I'm proud to call Dr. Mickey McLeod a colleague and one who I greatly appreciate, as I do each and every member of this team and member of this board. And so I'm sorry that we had the tough conversation tonight, but please know I support the work of Dr. Mickey McLeod. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any questions for Dr. Bound?
I can't let this go. Dr. Jerry Cook, you mentioned people talking about knowing how to respond to the community about their things. Dr. Cook was, as three of us know, made us all memorize Melody probably too, memorize the mission statement of the college so we could say it at any time, at any place. And then I think Paul Snyder helped us get it up on the wall of the permanent board chambers. So as soon as Jerry's name came up after you talked, I thought immediately of what he made us memorize, inspire learning, transfer lives, and strengthen communities.
Tattoo it.
So,
as your outgoing president.
yeah. So anyway, that's all I have.
It was my honor to recommend him for that. He was a fair man, as are you.
I'm mediocre, not quite to fair yet.
I didn't say anything about quality, I just said fair. I respect Dr. McLeod. I thank Dr. McLeod for his work. I thank Dr. Bound for his work. I thank Dr. Bound for the access to this cabinet that many of us enjoy and have the privilege of doing. We do disagree. It's beyond passion. It's reason and logic in asking for additional facts or I'm responding in part because Dr. Cook would say that. I appreciate your passion. And it's like, it's not just raging passion. There's a difference of opinion based upon facts and logic. And reasonable minds can disagree. From a business perspective, and Dr. McLeod and I have talked about this, it makes a lot of sense for what he's doing. I have had the extreme privilege of representing Johnson County for over 10 years, and we simply disagree on this point. And it's fair, it's understandable, it's just what it is. And while I respect Dr. McLeod, I disagree on this point. And I wanted Dr. Bound to know that. And that I support his cabinet. Any inference that I don't is in error. The next item on our agenda is new business. Is there any items for the good of the order here to be considered? I'll ask, if I may, Mr. President, are we due to receive a salary update for faculty salary, the study done by, is it Evergreen?
We are in the process. Dr. McLeod, if you want to answer that.
Yeah, we're in the process of working with Evergreen to get that salary study done. We started work about 2.5 weeks ago. They informed me that it will take them approximately 8 weeks to complete the work. And so we can anticipate having something back probably the second week of December.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any other new business? Any other issues? Any old business? Seeing none. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Each month we consider a number of items that are generally concluded en masse and then approved together. Is there any item any board member would like to remove for consideration from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
The motion has been moved by Trustee Ingram and seconded by Trustee Rail. Any discussion here on this point? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Motion carries 6-0. Next, I believe we have a series of executive sessions. More time to spend together after what just happened. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel regarding a pending legal matter which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. No action will be taken during this session. The administration and I determined that 30 minutes would be appropriate, beginning at what time?
We say 7:40?
7:40 is fine. 7:40, ending at 8:10. At which time, open session will resume at this same location. Invited to this session, please, are all board members in attendance, as well as Dr. Bound, Rachel Lears, Tom Hall, Dr. Jay Antle, Kelsey Nazar, and Jim Sakura. May I have such motion?
So moved.
The motion has been made by trustee Rail and seconded by trustee Ingram. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes 6-0. We'll see you at 7:40. Where are we going? Sorry?
WCMT 141.
141. Thank you all. As a result of the discussion we just had, I move that the board approve a proposed settlement agreement with Evergy related to the applications for electrical rates increases filed by Evergy with the Kansas Corporation Commission, and to authorize the president or designee to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the settlement.
Second.
Motion's been made by myself and seconded by trustee Musil. Do I ask for discussion? There's executive session. Any discussion? Any discussion to follow proper procedure here? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Hearing none, the motion passes 6-0. Next, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to protect trade secrets of a college contractual partner for the purposes of expanding credit and workforce development opportunities. No action will be taken during this session. The executive session will last, the administration and I consulted, 30 minutes, beginning at 8:15? What time would you all like to start?
8:15.
8:15.
8:15, we'll hustle.
Beginning at 8:15, concluding at 8:45, which time open session will resume at the same location. We would like to invite Dr. Bound, Dr. McLeod, Lisa Waldman, Rachel Lears, and Kelsey Nazar to join us, please. And if I may have such motion.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made by trustee Ingram and seconded by trustee Laura Smith Everett. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No, the motion passes 6-0. We'll see you at 8:45. Thank you.
We're
just going to
We're back after our second executive session, and we're here all night, at least for a third executive session. No action was taken in the previous one. We will be going into an executive session now, or at least I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to continue employee evaluation under the personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception. No action will be taken during this session. The executive session will last for, we didn't set a time. You think 30 minutes?
I think 30 minutes.
Yes, please.
45 minutes?
No, 30.
30's fine.
30, we'll go into executive session, which will last for 30 minutes, beginning at
8:50?
8:50, ending at 9:20 p.m., which time open session will resume at the same location. And I'd like to invite Dr. Bound and Kelsey Nazar to join us briefly for this executive session. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made by trustee Ingram, seconded by Laura Smith Everett. Trustee Laura Smith Everett, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Let's go. We're back after an executive session in which no action was taken. Now, I can just ask for a motion to adjourn, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And now I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn, if I may.
So moved.
The motion has been made by trustee Rail and seconded by trustee Ingram. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yes.
And those opposed, no. The motion carries. Thank you for coming. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.